Well, this date on the calendar is important. It is not just Transporter Parade Day for the Townsville 500, and it's not also just about State of Origin 3 tonight, the decider. Did you know that today is International Paramedics Day? And a big day to say thank you to those who are at the front line of saving lives. And so many of those who do work in those first responder jobs, we don't often say thank you, but we should do it more often, our police, firefighters and ambulance personnel. But concerns that maybe those hard workers are not getting the same benefits as other workers. This being raised by the group 000 Heroes on this International Paramedics Day, talking about their concern that certain entitlements are not passed on to those in those frontline jobs. Peter Vinicum is the president of 000 Heroes and is with us now. Peter, thanks for your time this morning.
Thanks, Michael. Great to be on.
It's good to be able to talk to you on the phone. We were just a bit nervous that we wouldn't be able to make contact with you on this day, but your phone is working, which we're very thankful for.
Absolutely.
Now, tell us about, first of all, the role that 000 Heroes plays in the community, because you're there to provide support for those first responders.
Yeah, so 000 Heroes has recently just relaunched or rebranded from Team Code Blue, who people may have heard of before. But essentially, we're there to support and advocate for our injured first responders, mainly for us, that is Queensland and New South Wales police, fire and ambulance officers. There are huge discrepancies and shortfalls in the way that injured first responders are looked after. Most people don't realise that if you are medically retired from these services, let's say in my case after 20 years, you don't get a pension, you don't get medical care paid for, which I will need for many, many years, if not the rest of my life. And there are such huge gaps where that we should be looked after. So we're advocating for better legislation changes and to really bridge the gap between what we deserve and what we get.
Why is there that gap? Is there any reasoning as to why these first responders, these people when they step away from their jobs, are missing out?
Look, my ideal scenario would be similar to a gold card type system that our veterans get. However, the issue with that is that that's a federally run program, and we are all employed by our states. So there's that complexity there. I think it simply comes down to money. So what we're calling for at the moment is awareness on the Voluntary Medical Retirement scheme. And what a lot of people don't realise is that if you work for the Queensland government in many departments, there's an opt-in scheme where the Voluntary Medical Retirement scheme gives you up to 2 weeks pay for every year you've worked, up to a maximum of 52 weeks, if you can no longer work due to illness or injury, and that's permanent. And like I said, it is an opt-in scheme, and the ones that almost every department is opted in, except the police service, the fire department, health and ambulance service, and education. So all those frontline staff, and that I'm assuming that just comes down to money.
Does that seem surprising to you, given that a lot of those workers and people that you represent are the ones that are probably in a greater chance of being injured or needing to have some sort of coverage if they can't do their job?
It surprises me and it disappoints me. It shouldn't be an opt-in basis. The Department of Premier and Cabinet, the Queensland Treasury, the Department of Housing, mainly desk jobs, they're all covered. And I would consider them fairly low risk, whereas the frontline entities, are obviously high. So yeah, it's a really frustrating state of affairs. I think the biggest issue we have is that today I would expect that a lot of politicians are going to post photos with paramedics and saying how much they support them. And my message is that we are not just a photo opportunity. And I just call on everyone, if you see a state member with a photo today on Facebook or whatever, do me a favour and tag 000 Heroes and then ask them why first responders are not part of the VMR scheme.
You're hearing from Peter Vinicum today on this International Paramedics Day, raising concerns about voluntary medical retirement schemes for those frontline workers, police, firefighters, ambulance personnel. Peter is with 000 Heroes. You advocate for the people in these industries. Have you had a chance to speak yourself with MPs, those in government, to ask why this is the case?
I've emailed pretty much everyone, every minister, local people. I'm in the electorate of Thuringowa, and my local MP has said she's going to get advice from the minister and get back to me. From the vast majority, I haven't even got a return email acknowledging the emails.
Okay, so that is something you're certainly hoping for. Are you hoping that, as you say, you're in the seat of Thuringowa, that Natalie Marr will be able to talk to you and give you some further information? Do you think that that's an opportunity to further this issue?
Absolutely. And the thing is that this is not a local issue. So I would expect a response from the department or from the Minister for Health and Ambulance Service. I would expect a response from the Premier. It requires leadership. It requires direction. I think the biggest issue, and again, it comes down to money, is that my understanding is that the VMRs are not budgeted for, so they come out of that department's budget. Well, just because we're at high risk, why should we not be included? If anything, we should be more included. I note in the latest ambulance award, they've introduced what's called the meritorious sick leave allowance, for want of a better term. But that only applies if you've worked over 26 years. I've worked 22. I'm not entitled to anything like that. So the changes that I'm asking for, they're not for me. They're for the people that come after me. It's not a job that's going to get better in regards to the trauma exposure, etc. That is part of the job. But I really want to look after the people that come next.
And have you heard of particular cases, individual instances where those who work in those industries could have benefited from a VMR scheme and have struggled because they're not?
Absolutely. The financial process of being injured and then medically retired is awful. So when you go on work cover, you get a 15% pay cut for the first 6 months. Then you get a 25% pay cut for the next 18 months. And if you're still on work cover after that, you get the disability support pension if your whole of body impairment is less than 20%, which most mental health injuries are. So most people drop down to $570 a week or thereabouts. And we all have mortgages, we have families, we have budgets. So the stress that adds on top of the illness that you've got and the issues that you have, it just compounds. And people have reached out just all the time, telling their stories about the feeling of isolation and the lack of financial support. And then again, you have to pay for your psychiatrist, your medications, your psychologist, and all that for the rest of your life.
Thanks for explaining that to us today. Peter Vinicum, President of 000 Heroes. As you said, you're a former Queensland Ambulance Service paramedic yourself, and today is International Paramedics Day. We've talked about the struggles, but I'm just wondering, for you, with over 20 years of service in an industry like that, what did you like about being a paramedic?
Mate, I absolutely loved it. It was a privilege to be welcomed into people's homes with 100% trust. On the worst days of their life. I miss it every day. It is, it's just an occupation where you are giving, and by giving, you actually feel pretty good too.
Well, can I say thank you to the work you've done and all the paramedics, because they really are lifesavers in so many respects. So all the best for today. Peter Vinicum, thank you for talking to us this morning.
Thanks, Michael.
From 000 Heroes, which used to be known as Team Code Blue, has had a rebranding in recent time on this International Paramedics Day. That's Peter Vinicum. This is